Welcome to Module 8, Leverage to Scale. Thanks for staying with us. It's been a long journey. Here's a quick recap to the 7 steps that have preceded the final step in your 8 steps to multifamily investing success. Module 1.
Commit to change.
Module 2.
Getting ready to buy.
Module 3.
Analyze the deal.
Module 4.
Do your due diligence.
Module 5.
The close.
Module 6. And I know 7. Management.
That's right.
Get ready for Module 8. But before we go to Module 8, let's go back and recap Module 7. You want to make your tenant into your plumber, right? So in other words, when you have a problem, you got a tenant on the phone, you want to have that tenant work through maybe just some easy steps. For example, is your toilet plugged? Could you grab a plunger and give it a shot? If your air conditioner's not working, could you maybe check the main breaker? Turn it off, turn it on. Try to help them help you. You want to encourage them to join or to opt into your online property management software and to create their own tenant portal. And in that tenant portal, they can access things like a copy of their lease. They can look at their tenant ledger to see what charges have been posted and what receipts have been applied to those charges. You also want to require that liability to landlord insurance. Our property management software gives them the option to buy their own property management insurance through a company called Roost. Or if they choose not to participate in Roost, then we automatically enroll them in a liability to landlord insurance only. Another thing you wanted to do was you want to make sure you assess your property manager. You want to interview them. You want to test them against some of the principles that we've shared with you to make sure that they can do a good job for you. And then finally, you want to use our tools to hold your property manager accountable. And this could be whether they're staff, this could be a family member, you could use this on yourself, or if you have hired an outside property manager, you want accountability. So let's move on.
But like we said before, for me, the systems that we created, having the step-by-step and systems to go through the management if you want to be completely out of the business, by having these checks and balances, I mean, it can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over time, right?
Sure, and it can help you leverage the scale, right?
That's right.
The more profit you have, the faster you can grow.
All right, so
don't forget, Business in a Box has that information in there for you.
Right.
Here we go with leverage to scale.
Module 8. All right, so leverage to scale, creating your exit plan for creating a legacy. We're going to talk about the BRRRR method, the buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. It's a method to scale and grow in your existing investments from one like duplex to buying hundreds and hundreds of properties and beyond, okay? So how do you know when to refinance and purchase more properties? One of the things that we talk about is people buy them and they just keep collecting the money, but they're leaving money on the table by their properties maybe increasing and having the opportunity to refinance and redeploy that money to get a better return, right?
Sure, and actually times 4 because of leverage.
That's right. How to know when, we already talked about that, how to know when to refinance your properties, how the ultra wealthy use one technique to amass wealth and tax savings very quickly, which is huge in this. Yep, and then accelerate your path to financial freedom.
Awesome.
So here we go.
Hope you have your financial freedom number and you're following along. So this is where it gets good. The BRRRR method. It sure is cold in here. That's how I remember it. BRRRR. So the first BRRRR, the B in BRRRR, is to buy. And how do you buy? Let's talk about buying.
Well, we talked about it throughout all the modules on how I was a professional distressed seller buyer. I'd find distressed sellers. It either could be physically, financially, whatever. And so that's one of the things that majority of people that I've found that get into apartments, they go through brokers, they do the traditional method.
They're not getting deals.
They're not getting deals. We're teaching you how to get the deals on top of adding value by increasing rents and lowering expenses, right?
Sure, and getting the better deal you get, the more you can BRRRR, or the faster you can BRRRR.
That's right.
Or the order of magnitude there is exponential. So for me, well, rehab can mean different things. If we're talking to fix and flippers, for them, rehab means let me get this property, let me make it look as good as I can for as cheap as I can, but I want to use modern and contemporary finishes and fixtures and furnishings, right? So a person's going to walk into this older house, but they're going to see the new colors. They're going to see the things that they see in model homes today. So for fix and flip, you want to rehab and you want to make that stuff look as good as you could to make it pop. And you tell us, you've done this a million times and you've seen it and everybody's doing it. So your rehab is maybe a little bit different than my rehab, right?
Absolutely. Like, and here's the thing. You can go, and it all depends on the type of property you're rehabbing, but if you can over rehab,
Sure.
especially in a rental,
Sure.
right? And most rentals, you could, like we just talked about, we were actually at lunch today, right? And we're talking about your rehab could be a couple $100. My rehab could be $20,000.
Sure. We talked about the difference between a single family rental and turning that single family rental over versus an apartment, and how you can turn that over. And we talked about, I personally have spent $10,000, $12,000 on a single family rehab. And you go in there and the carpet's bad, and maybe they broke an expensive countertop. Maybe they've ruined the landscaping. Maybe they've ruined the sprinklers. They've dug holes in the yard. You name it, it happens. So you have to get all that stuff fixed in order to rent this single family again. Whereas with us, we tenant-proof our apartments by doing a few things that we're going to talk about right now. Awesome. So one thing we do is we always take out the carpet. All the carpet goes out, and we install ceramic tile as our flooring. And if a tenant moves in and they really don't want tile, we just encourage them to find a nice rug, a throw rug, a runner for the hall, whatever they want. They can put it down, they can put their furniture on it, and then when they leave, they can pull that out and take it with them. For me, on my side, if a tenant drops a glass bottle of fingernail polish on that tile and leaves it there, or tries to clean it up and makes even more of a mess, 9 months later, when it's time for me to rehab that property, I could take $1 worth of gasoline and a roll of paper towels or some lacquer thinner, and I can get that nail polish out off of that tile, and I can move on. Now, had I left carpet in there, either carpet just in the bedrooms, because that's what some landlords do. They say, well, people really want carpet in their bedroom, so they'll leave it in the bedroom. So for me, for my $1 worth of materials and my 5 minutes of time, they're going to end up having to replace that carpet. So they're going to have to schedule that. They're going to have to call the contractor. They're going to have to do the demo. They're going to have to get carpet put back in there. They're going to have to schedule all that around all the other trades that are going on. So for me, time and money, right? And when I pay for my tile once, it might last 25, 30 years. I could put a brand new piece of carpet in a room, and I might be paying $5 a square foot for carpet installed. And the first tenant that moves in could ruin that carpet on the first day, and I could evict them. And 30 days later, I have to put another piece of carpet in there.
And then you're trying to chase them for that carpet money, which they may or may not pay
So we
back,
already
right?
wrote that off, yeah.
Yep.
So the dollars are one thing, and the time is another thing. So for me, for time and money, I always go with ceramic tile. And that's one way we tenant-proof an apartment. Another thing that we do and we talked about is we remove garbage disposals. Because none of our tenants, myself included, I didn't grow up with a garbage disposal. So the first time you get a garbage disposal, maybe you're smarter than I was, but I'm going to go ahead and peel a potato, fill it up, and I'm going to put it down the garbage disposal, and I'm going to turn it on. What's going to happen? Nothing, right? It's going to turn, make a noise, and then so guess what? So I have tenants, they move in, they have garbage disposal, they fill it with potato peels, and they call maintenance, right? Or they called me because they used to have access to me directly. And they would say, hey, your garbage disposal is broken. I need you to come over here and fix it. My sink's full of dirty dishes now. There's water in it. It's disgusting. I need you to get over here right away. It's an emergency, right? So we get over there, we drain the sink, and then they want us to stick our hand down in their garbage disposal and pull the mess out that they created, right? So you don't argue with people, you take care of business. But the first thing I do, if we're doing a rehab, I take them out. If one breaks while someone's a tenant, I go in there. Now it's probably $100 to $150 repair for even the most economic garbage disposal you can get, right? So we found a pipe. It comes straight down from where the garbage disposal was, and it turns and goes straight across. In our sinks, we all have double sinks. One had disposal, one had a strainer. So for us, it costs about maybe $7 to get that piece. And then we go in, we pull out the disposal, we throw in the trash, we put this $7 piece in there, and we move on with our life. And we've eliminated another trap, another problem. We'll never have that problem again with that unit, with that tenant, in perpetuity. Another thing that we get rid of right away in all of our apartments is dishwashers. It's kind of the same scenario. A lot of people didn't grow up with dishwashers. I also didn't have a dishwasher, but people don't scrape. They do have expensive dishwashers that have macerators built into them, but our apartments didn't have them, and we're not going to spend that kind of money on an apartment. So tenants fill the dishwasher with food, the dishwasher pump gets plugged, now the dishwasher's not working. It's the same exact scenario. You go over there for the garbage disposal. Now you're doing it for the dishwasher. So what we've done is we know that a dishwasher is 24 inches wide. So we found a nice cabinet for about $100 that they sell it at Home Depot. It's called a 24-inch base cabinet. So we get that dishwasher out, we throw it in the trash, and we put a nice base cabinet in there, and we never have that problem again. So these are some ways that we tenant-proof our apartments. One thing that we used to do that we don't do so much anymore is we used to have a lot of ceiling fans, and the ceiling fans, they were expensive to replace. And so anytime we went into a unit to rehab it, we put in a regular light fixture, take out the ceiling fan. And then, if a tenant wanted extra circulation, they could put a fan, plug it in.
They can go buy the fan themselves.
Right.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
For us now, fans have come down in price. You can get a great fan with an LED fixture, for $50 now. So we're not sticking to that so much, but it's up to you. If a fan goes out, a tenant's going to call you and say, I need you to come and replace my fan. If the fan was never there to begin with, there's never going to be a problem. So we want to look forward, look ahead, and try to almost build these tenant-proof apartments. Another thing that we do specifically in our area, any building that faces south, in the summer, it's super hot. So if you have a big window, a small, medium-sized window facing south, when we go to our Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever we're getting our window coverings, they have some really nice 2-inch blinds, and they're faux wood, so they're plastic, and they look great. And you put them in, and you rent that apartment right away. People love them. But what happens is they melt right in the middle. And so you have, 2-3 months of summer, and this whole top to bottom, this whole window, the whole shade's ruined. So we learned, hey, as nice as those things look, we can't buy them anymore. For the same price, we can get the 1-inch aluminums, and the 1-inch aluminums don't melt, right? So we learn our lesson. We try to be smart about things, but you always want to think in the future down the road, what are you not going to have to replace the next time? What can you pull out and not ever have to put back in? So garbage disposal, dishwasher, you may or may not do the ceiling fan trick. And carpet for sure. No carpet.
So tell me this. So
that's rehab. Rehab.
Well, no, but let me just give me just a quick general rule when you walk into a property. Okay, if you're doing your inspection, what do you look for, and then what are a couple simple items that when you're going to rehab a property? You have the same cabinets? Do you have the same tile? Do you have the same paint? Do you have the same yes. Fixtures, finishes, all that stuff?
Absolutely.
So when you go in and look at a property, or your team goes in and they video and they show you what to do, what you're expecting to do for your units, they know exactly what to buy, right?
Sure. And I learned this trick from a good friend of mine that he had a particular color paint he liked to use, so he always used it. And it's no secret in the industry, but yes, absolutely. We buy the same color and the same sheen. We have 3 colors that we use on the outside of our properties, and all of our properties are that color. And they could be different combinations of that color. Some of them have the body in one color and the trim in another color. Yep. Other properties, vice versa. But we do the same thing inside. So a frustration of mine, again, I'm going to throw Home Depot out there. We use Home Depot. They seem to be priced in our area better than Lowe's, and they give us good perks. And the pros who take care of us, the people that are in there a lot, they call us pros. I just was able to hit it off real good with the pros from Home Depot. So we use Home Depot. So frustration of mine, if you don't know about tile, you buy tile, even if you want to buy the same tile, the same color, same size, the same everything, every time you buy tile, you might get a different lot number. So even though you have 2 18-inch tiles, and we use 18-inch gray tile on all of our floors, yep. So even if you have 2 different lots of the same gray tile next to each other, they might not be the same size. They can be off a 1/16 of an inch, and when you put those 2 tiles next to each other, your lines don't line up. And good tile guys can kind of shuffle those in and out. But for us, our flooring guy, he's very particular, but he's also very fast and very inexpensive. So he always wants the same lot. And also there's variation in color. Even though they're gray, there can be 25 different shades of gray. So a frustration of mine is every time I had to go into Home Depot to get tile, I'd go in there, I'd try to be a day or two ahead of the job, and I'd say, all right, we need tile, I need 1,000 square feet, I want the gray. And you'd order it from the pro, and then the pro would go to lunch, and then you'd come back, you're still there looking for them. Is it ready? Oh no, I've been at lunch for an hour. And then, okay, well I need this, I gotta get going. Okay, well let me go find the forklift guy because it's up in the racks and he's out smoking a cigarette. So there's always just a million reasons why I used to spend 8 hours a day at Home Depot. And I said, how can I streamline this process? And your buddy Matt has done this too. But what I ended up doing is I finally went to Home Depot and I said, hey, how many pallets of tile do I need to order from you to get a good price and to get it all here together at once? And we ended up ordering like 35 pallets of tile, and it was like three semi loads, and we got all that tile and we put it into our self-storage unit. So we have like a warehouse, and so now, and in perpetuity, always moving forward, we've done this for about the past 2 years. We always have a storage unit full of tile. Yep. And when it's all the same lot, it's all the same color. So that's something that we've done kind of to accelerate the rehab process and to cut down on those Home Depot delays. And you asked about color.
Yeah.
And so we also have 2 colors on the inside, and we pretty much do the same thing in every apartment. With cabinets, if the cabinets are in good shape, we're gonna clean them, sand them, do the repairs, and we're gonna paint them. And we paint all of our cabinets inside and out, a nice white color. And then countertops, we actually go with granite.
Yeah.
Every countertop we do, we never replace a countertop with Formica, because Formica, it's almost like carpet. The first time someone goes in there and sets the iron down on it or takes a pan off of the stove that's hot, they ruin the Formica. So you end up getting in this situation where you just did the Formica and you spend a few $100 and now you're doing it again and again and again. So for us, we use granite, and we have a good granite guy, and we're not super picky about it. Everything doesn't have to be book ended perfectly. We just have a really messy salt and pepper kind of looking granite, and one upgrade that we do.
But the tenants love it.
The tenants love it, and it's great on the phone too. What do you got? Well, I got a freshly rehabbed unit. It's got brand new ceramic tile, brand new granite countertops, and we do the granite in the kitchens and in the bathrooms, and they love it. And they can't wait to see it. And for us, we love it because it lasts forever. It really is indestructible.
What we'll do in our we'll have a resource section, and we'll take some pictures so you guys can go in and kind of get a visual of what.
Yeah, I think we have that in there already. So
Yep.
Yeah. So you can take a look at some of our units. Another thing that we do is we go with LED fixtures, just because inevitably every time a tenant moves out, they take all the light bulbs. I don't know what they're doing with them, but we just switched to LED fixtures. So now we buy a great, and why we started doing it was because I don't know if you've ever been into a bathroom, but a lot of the bathrooms have this really cheap fixture. It's like 4 bulbs, and the fixture's cheap. It's like $10, but the bulbs are $10 each. And you can never seem to match the bulbs with the other bulbs. So one bulb goes out, and then you end up with a goofy bulb. So the LED fixture that we use, it's called a Hollywood light, and it works great. And we get them for like $40. And every time we do a rehab, we put that in there. Another thing we do is we get rid of medicine cabinets. And tenants don't love us for that. But the problem is the medicine cabinets get old, and they're dirty, and you can't clean them. And for us, there's gaps in the walls, and you can caulk them in. But for us, we just take those medicine cabinets off the wall, throw them in the trash, repair the drywall, seal up the wall, and then we take a nice framed mirror, so it's almost like a picture, and we hang that mirror right there, and people love it. And it looks fresh, and it's brand new. And those are about $30. So again, you're not trying to find the medicine cabinet that fits, and even when it's in there, it looks old automatically. Yep. And another thing we do, we've gone to a single hole faucet. Yep. And a single hole faucet, it costs a few dollars more than your cheap faucet, but typically they're higher quality faucets, so they're gonna last longer. But it just has so much pop when they walk in. A a thing that I like about my apartments when we rehab them is I don't have to show it twice. Right. The first time I show it, they take it because they love it and they don't want anyone else to get it.
Right.
So we spent a lot of time on rehab, but we hopefully taught you a little bit how to tenant-proof your apartment.
So real quick, just on a recap for that, and I know when we were talking about in our modules before in management and how to interview a manager, you want to go back and listen to this and go over some of the steps that Tom talked about, because if your manager, if you're not going to do it yourself, or you are going to scale and do it yourself and have a team in-house, but ask them these questions, because think about the expenses you're going to save by having a system. He has his own basically mini Home Depot warehouse. If a manager has that, think about how much money you'll save with that opportunity. Not only that, it's an easy, quick turn, which you're going to have the same system, the same countertops, the same everything, and you're going to have tenants staying longer because they feel they're in a clean unit.
Sure. Yeah, and where's the last time they saw that nice of a unit, right? And we're priced at market. So they're looking at ours for market price, and then they're looking at 3 other ones that are old and not updated for the same price. Yep. So we do gain tenants that way. Yep. And then like you said, turn time. So my staff knows exactly what to do in every apartment. Yep. They know that when they go into that apartment, there's a process that we follow. And that process from start to finish, and they know it's the same for every apartment. So they don't have to call someone and ask them, hey, are we painting the cabinets in this apartment? Hey, what color are the walls? Hey, what are we doing about lighting? What are we doing about flooring? Yep. Every single time we know and they know what to do.
Right, love it.
So that was a lot of great info. So then we're talking rent. All right, so BRRRR, remember, buy, rehabilitate, and now it's time to rent. So what we want to do in rents is the same thing we've said module after module. We want to do a rent survey. We want to make sure that our rent matches the rents that are going on in the market. Right now, for us in our market, rents are in a bubble, which means to me that they're super high right now. They're inflated way past what I think they should be. And you could mark today on the calendar. We're here at the end of January in 2021. And I believe that this bubble in rents is causing a bubble in apartment pricing as well. So we'll look back on this in a few years and we'll see if I was right or wrong. But you have to stay current with the market rent. And you don't want to be renting your apartment for 10%, 20% less than what everyone else is renting for. So I told this story 3 or 4 times. I bought 10 units on this side of the road. They were renting for $300 to $350 a month, and they were $35,000 a unit. And across the street, there was the city had just built a whole brand new apartment complex, and it was like a $14 million project. So for me, I was able to almost immediately get in there, do some quick rehab when a tenant would move out. And I literally took some rents from $300, $325 a door up at the time to $500, $550. I'm at $750 right now, and I think I've owned those apartments for maybe like 3 years. I probably bought them in maybe 4.5 years ago.
And those units that you
and
bought
the rent's
for 35,
almost triple. It's at 2.5.
And you in those rents those units you bought for $35,000 a door, obviously you were in the right place at the right time, and everything was great. But now those things are selling for $90 a door now.
Yeah, and it wasn't the best deal out there either. I wasn't the first guy that looked at them, right? But I going back to a previous module, I wasn't stuck on $25,000 a door anymore. And a lot of my buddies weren't buying anymore. They said, man, it's not worth more than 25. There's nothing out there worth more than 25. I wouldn't pay more than 25. I went out there and said, that thing has income, the rents are low, and they'll sell it to me. I'll take it. Let's figure it out, right? So yeah, you gotta, and all that was because I wanted to grow. I 10x'd my number, and instead of wanting to only make $100,000 a year, now I had a new goal. I needed to get to 100 units. And how fast can I get to 100 units? And I thank Grant Cardone for that one too, because it really changed my
the one thing, talk about real quick, a little bit of a sidetrack.
I'm sorry, 1,000 units, not 100.
I thought it was 1,000. Yeah. So anyway, the cool thing about what you've done and you grew your business in your local market is you're some people will be like, I'll only buy 100 and above. Well, you created in a geographic area where it's easy for your guys to drive around. So when you're looking at markets that have a lot of multifamily, but not the big units, but you can buy a fourplex, a duplex, and 10 units and 13. You could build yourself into 100 doors very, very quickly in a geographical area and have lower competition because the big boys aren't shopping for those little things.
Yeah, because they
think
still don't want it.
They don't want it.
Even though it's 3 properties apart from each other, their syndication
you could have 100
targets.
You could have 100 units within a 2-mile radius.
Right, I
which
love
is like
that.
going into a complex.
You're 100% right.
It's fantastic.
And syndications won't look at that because the syndication's written to only look at 101 units and higher, right? So yeah,
Together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 101 units at one address.
Yeah, so don't get stuck.
So that's awesome.
So as you're don't get stuck.
That can help you grow in a market that's super competitive. That can give you an edge into that market.
And
so,
what we've been doing is we talk to all the wholesalers that don't want to have cash flow ever. They just want the quick cash. I would love to give them 20 grand for a 4-plex in profit. Yeah. So, but they'll send me 100 of them in a year. I'll buy all of them, and I'll be making $20,000 a month. While they're hustling.
So part of the BRRRR, you're going to buy, you're going to rehabilitate, you're going to rent the property. You're going to want to rent that property, for the top of the market, for the best kind of money you can get. You're going to want to sign a 1-year lease so that property's stabilized. By the way, I bought a property where they weren't doing leases. And they said, well, we're just doing month to month because if we get a bad tenant, we want to be able to get them out of there. That's a horrible business model, guys. You want to lock people in. It costs you more if you have a month-to-month tenant that moves in and moves out a month later. It costs you more in time and in turnover and trying to get that unit rented. You got to have those leases. You want people that are committed. If you have people that are month-to-month, they're probably people that aren't going to be committed to your community.
Refi.
So now we're on to refi. When you refinance, you're going to kind of go back. BURR. So buy, rehab, rent, and now refinance. Yep. When we're looking at refinance, we're going to step back a tiny little bit and we're going to look at rent again. Why did we push our rents to get them as high as we can? So when you get an appraisal for multifamily, you're going to get one that's based on the income approach, right? So the income approach basically takes the income and multiplies it times a term that's escaping me right now. What do we call that? We call that the GRM, the gross rent multiplier. So commercial appraisers, income approach, gross rent multiplier. So look that up. That's a number that they pull out of the air based on the market.
So real quick, on the multifamily, so you have a 10 unit, right?
Yes.
And those 10 units, let's just say they're $50,000 a door, and they rent for $700. And then you take those $700 and you move them up to $1,000. Right. Okay. So a bank will look at the income approach, okay? Right. So let's just say I have 10 single-family homes that are worth $50,000 and the rents are $700. And then I increase the rents to $1,000. Right. Are they going to be able to refinance my house that's a $50,000 comp on every single house down the street for $100,000?
So,
no,
I mean, it could happen. I see where you're going with that. Yeah. Because you can get different kinds of loans for different kinds of things, and you can get a portfolio loan. And some of my friends, they were fix and flippers, and they were buying about every 10th home or whatever they would keep, and they would rent, and they would never refinance and grow, but they would start with hard money, and then they would think that, well, I sold 9 homes, so on the 10th home, now I made enough commission on the 9 that I can buy that one, and but so what they're doing now is they took that and they took it out of hard money with Fannie Freddie money, okay? And then when you get Fannie Freddie loans in single family, you can only get 10 loans, and these rules change every day. So I might already be wrong, but the last I knew, you get up to about 10 properties and you can't put any more properties in your name. And so they're trying to look for ways that they can get around that. So one of the ways that they figured out that they could take those 10 properties, put them into a trust, and the trust owns them now. And so now you don't have any property in your name and you can buy 10 more. But then another thing you can do is you can go to a portfolio lender and you can kind of package them. And now banks are starting to look at that at single family, and they said, well, we can take your 10 residentials and come at them from an income approach. So it works in all markets, but again, for us, we love multifamily because of the way it limits your exposure. At the end of the day, for us, that's a huge part of it is how it limits your exposure. So when it's time to refinance, For us, why are we refinancing? And this kind of touches on Secrets of the Rich and one of the things that the rich do. I have watched families with big multifamily portfolios, and we also have friends in syndication, and typically they're going to buy a property and they're going to hold it for 5 years, and at the 5-year point, they're going to go back through, maybe try to refinance and cash out and get as much cash out of it as they can. They're going to operate for another 5 years, and then at the end of that 10 years, they're going to sell and they're going to 1031 into newer property. And that's just a model of the rich. So what it does for them is it gives them cash flow, it gives them depreciation tax savings, right?
Tax benefits.
And then it also lets them leverage and grow. So when you buy and operate, right when you buy, you establish a cost basis and you gain a certain dollar amount of tax deduction, whatever it is. And then from the 5-year point, or at the 5-year point, if you refinance, you can take usually big chunk of cash out of that. You might use that to live your life. You might use that to buy more property. But then at year 10, you've continued to operate. You paid it down again. And now at year 10, the reason they typically sell is to get into newer property, because they're figuring that this property is already worn out and it's time for them to buy newer property. And their tax gain in a 1031 exchange gets transferred to the new property, and they buy a bigger property or a newer property, a better property, so they get a whole new round of tax deductions, and they just follow that method again and again and again. So we refinance for several reasons. One reason is to get our down payment back, right? Because for me, all I ever wanted to do was get my down payment back, right?
So you could do what?
That was my goal in life, so I could buy more. Right. So if I bought a property and 6 months later I could refinance it and get my down payment back, my return goes from being a 200% cash on cash return, which again, if you buy something and you get all your money back in 1 year, that's 100%. If you buy something and get all your down payment money back in 6 months, that's a 200% return on investment. So if I buy a property and I get all my down payment back in 6 months, because at 6 months I said, hey, I go to the bank, I've stabilized this property, I've raised the rents, here's my NOI, you guys love me, I'm a star and I've proven it to you, now give me my down payment back, right? And the bank laughs at you and they say, come back. But you do, you keep trying. So if you refinance and get all your money back, you got a 200% return on your cash, and then your investment at that point changes to being an infinite or a magnitude.
Let me ask you a question though. So you buy a property, let's say you either borrow the money or you put your own money down, you put $100,000 down, 6 to 12 months later, you've renovated it, you've increased rents, life's great, you refinance, you get your $100,000 back. Do you pay tax on that money?
You do not pay tax on refinance.
No, because you're borrowing and getting your money back. So then you go take that money, and then you go either borrow more and go buy another property with it, right? And then you just keep going. So that's the deal.
Now, one or two other things. One thing, I used to follow a guy, I believe his name's Justin Spalding. He was starting to grow when I was starting to grow. We both kind of joined AppFolio at the same time. He kind of went syndication, and I've stayed private, but great story. We both got our contractor's licenses kind of at the same time. We both started doing other work for other people, commercial work kind of at the same time. So Justin, if you're out there, nice to meet you. But one thing I liked that he said, and I believe that I'm quoting him correctly, is he said whenever he cashed out refi, he always would put at least 10% of the proceeds back into the property, right? Mm-hmm. So don't just strip that property and not do something nice to it, right?
Yeah, add value.
Go back and put 10% of, if you pulled out $1 million, spend $100,000, reseal the parking lot, work on your roofs, ACs, whatever you do. Yeah. But I thought that was a great idea. And then another super important, maybe the most important thing, I don't know if we've touched on it at all, but something I learned in the Rich Dad books is do not ever go into negative cash flow. Do not ever buy a property negative cash flow hoping for appreciation, which you and I have had lots of talks about that. Yep. And it's so tough to stay disciplined in an appreciating market because everything's going up, and why would we not just keep on and don't worry about cash flow? But we never want to do that. We always want to worry about cash flow.
And right now in 2021, we're seeing a massive bubble, cap rates at all-time lows, people paying these ridiculous amounts of money. And we're looking at these syndicators on how they're looking at from 1 to 10 years on their increasing of rents. And they're basing their entire investment on that.
Right.
Well, guess what we're going to do? There's a high probability, it doesn't guarantee, but there's a pretty good chance that they're going to overpay. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to come in and fix their problem.
Sure, we're going to be there when
they're very profitable.
Yeah.
So right now is the time to learn what we're saying, get all these techniques in place. So when time comes and you can go online and track everything in 2021, 2022, if this thing happens, guess what we're going to be? We're going to be having an amazing opportunity for affordable housing. To provide great homes for people or great places for people to live.
Yep.
We're
safe, affordable housing.
Safe, affordable housing, and we're going to be able to bail some of these syndicators out.
Sure, we hope to have opportunity there. But remember,
we're going to help them out too.
Don't ever refinance and take so much refinance out. And most of the time, the bank's your ally and the bank won't let you. Yeah. But you can get into bad situations, hard money situations, barters, partnerships, where you could take cash out and go to negative cash flow. So again, don't buy with negative cash flow and don't be creative and do creative finance for negative cash flow. And also don't over leverage or over refinance and put yourself in a negative cash flow.
And so in regards to negative cash flow, let's talk about this. So I paid, sometimes you can pay more for a property and get better terms. And so I went through a deal just recently. It's a little fourplex in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I looked at the deals and I was paying a premium. And the guy wanted to give me great terms, but it did not cash flow. And so we had this discussion, do not do that. So what did I do? I went back and said, Mr. Seller, I'm giving you a premium, but I need a cash flow. I need a cash flow, and this is my parameters. Will this still work for you? Because don't you want me to be successful? So because I was having the seller carry the payment. Yes. I was having him carry the payment for 17 years. So he could have a guaranteed payment every month, knowing that I was going to make the payment. I'm in still grow mode. I call him, I'm an active, growing investor still, and he's become passive. He's an ender. I call him an ender. Yeah. So he's at the end of his career. He's already made all of his money, but he loves the asset class. So he's willing to get a guy like me who has operations, knows how to find them, knows how to rent them, knows how to do all the things, has the systems in place. Clearly we have better systems than he does, or else he would never sell. But now he just wants to not deal with it. He's already got his tax benefits in place. Now he's going to get a nice monthly check. And they're everywhere out there, you guys, everywhere. That's
right, awesome. So you can always keep negotiating. So good point. I'm glad you made that deal.
Yeah,
you didn't share it with me, by the way.
I know.
That's right.
Whatever.
Okay, now let's look at balance sheet. So I just want to touch on this. Had this epiphany at some point in my career, and if you don't know what a balance sheet is, kind of take a look and do some studying on that. But basically, your balance sheet's going to have your assets and your liabilities. And so for us, every time we buy a property, we set up a tax basis, and our basis is on our balance sheet. That's our asset. That's what it's worth. And then the liability against that same asset is the loan on it. So when we buy a property for $1 million, and the bank loans us, to a 75% loan to value. And so we have a $1 million asset on our balance sheet and a tax basis of $1 million. And then on the liability side, we have a $750,000 debt against it. So your balance sheet's pretty in balance because your asset is worth $1 million and your liabilities is $750,000. So you're in balance, you're doing good. Okay, so as you go along and do the BRRRR method, and it's mostly the part of the BRRRR because you've already bought it and it's already on your balance sheet, but you're rehabilitating, you're making it tenant proof, you're driving rents and making sure you're getting every penny, you're cutting expenses, you're managing well, and also every month you're paying down your principal, right? So your $1 million asset and your $750,000 liability.
Who's paying down your principal for you?
I'm sorry, you're not paying down your principal. Your tenants are paying down your principal for you.
That's right.
Thank you. That's very important. So your $1 million asset and your $750,000 liability, so your balance sheet is in balance in your favor or in a positive favor. And as your tenants pay down your principal, it can get down into the 700s and maybe in the 600s, depending on how long you let it ride. So what happens when I take that property and I start with the of the burr and I say, it's time to refinance, right? Yeah. So when I refinance and now I don't owe $690,000 anymore because this property that's on my balance sheet at $1 million, guess what? Now it's worth $2 million. Whoa, how did that happen, right? Yeah. Now it's worth $2 million. But to my balance sheet, I already established my tax basis and it's only worth $1 million. But to my bank or to my hard money or to my syndication, to whoever I'm getting money from, now my liability went from 690, 680, whatever it was, it can go up to 1.5 million. So how can it be that my balance sheet is so out of balance? And it looks horrible, right? If anyone grabbed a balance sheet and they saw it and it had $1 million asset and it had $1.5 million in liability, they'd say, get this guy out of here, right? Kick him out, get him out. We don't want him. But what I do when I get into that situation is I know that my property has appreciated, so I know it's probably has to be worth $2 million to borrow 1.5 against it. Or the other thing that happens for me is I go, well, I've got this $1 million asset and I owe 1.5 against it, but guess what? I just bought a $2 million asset with that money that I took out on that refi. I took the $500,000, I put it down on a $2 million property, and now, boom, up pops a $2 million property on the asset side. So now I have 2 plus 1 million in assets, and then I have the 1.5, and then I'm gonna have another loan on the other one. But just understand what a balance sheet is, understand what it looks like, but also be ready to explain to your bank or whoever you're trying to borrow money from or whoever you're trying to pitch to invest, be able to explain the potential imbalances of your balance sheet. And I hope I was clear on that.
Yeah,
it's a tough, difficult thing to understand, so you can always research more about that. And now we're finally to another R. I'm not sure which this is on the
repeat.
Oh, well, that's the easy
best part.
Yeah. And I just kind of said it, but every time you pull money out, you buy another property. And the more you pull out, the more property you can buy. So that's leverage. I don't know if we have leverage. This module is leverage, right? So this is how you lever. This is what you do to lever. Remember why we're buying real estate? Because you can lever it. You can put $1 down and own $10 of real estate. You can put $0 down and own $1 million worth of real estate. We've been through all those scenarios. That's what leverage is. You move a little on this side and move a lot on that side. So repeat, and grow to scale.
Right. And so what we do is when we're talking about our freedom number, we issue round math. If you have affordable, safe, clean, maintained housing, which is what we focus on, right? And you leverage right, you buy right, and your number just is $200 a month, and then it's just like, how many 200s a month do I need?
And that's what
to
you're
pay my
profiting
bills
on each unit
and then
after that, right?
Yep.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yep. So how many 200s do I need? And you can be in high school, you could be in college, and you could be retired.
Sure.
And be like,
at any stage of life.
I want to make an extra, $3,000 a month. Just back into it. Go through our modules. Learn how to find your team.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And we're given general numbers, and we've used a lot of generalities throughout the course. But for us, what we did was we just took a look at one of our partnerships, and that partnership, what the distribution is. Yep. And it's a consistent monthly distribution that we've been able to hand out year over year. And we divided that number by the number of units, and we divided that number by the partnership percentages. And we came out to where $200 a month seems to be just popping up over and over again.
The best part about that is we're not even talking about refinancing and getting that as part of your income. That's a tax benefit.
Yeah, that's
we're only focusing on cash flow. Only focusing on cash flow. That's the most important thing you guys can remember.
If we haven't talked about the freedom number enough, if you make $2,000 a month take home right now, you need 10 apartments to replace that income. It's as easy as that, and I hope you have that. Now, all that being said, if you decide to go with a property manager and not do the management yourself, you might be at $100 a month. Right? So what would happen to you? Well, you would need 20 units instead of 10. So the property manager, I guess another way you can look at leverage is you're going to lever yourself, and the more you lean on yourself, the faster you're going to grow. You can grow either way. This
is one important thing that we talked about. We talked about interviewing your property manager and knowing what their personality is, right?
Yes.
Well, you got to interview yourself and know what your personality is. If you just love managing your properties or managing the manager and being really hands-on, but you're not really good at going and finding them,
right,
then you should stick to that. But if you love going out and finding them, like I do, I'm a deal guy, I love it. And or if you love raising capital, and you know, because you got to find them,
right,
you got to have capital, and you got to manage them,
right,
and you got to systemize your management, right? You just got to plug yourself in, and you take a test, learn what you're good at.
And you might be good in a partnership. And I know you've read the book Rocket Fuel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so Rocket Fuel talks about integrators and visionaries, right?
Yep.
And so in our situation, if Eric might be more of a visionary and he might be always out there chasing the deal, and I'm the guy over here saying, hey, wait, we got to slow down. We got to collect the rents. And he's like, no, let's go. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that when you're dealing with your property manager, you have to decide what your level of involvement's going to be, and then if it's going to be heavy or heavy to moderate, are you the visionary or are you the integrator? So just understand relationships. Another thing that comes up a lot of times when we're talking about refinancing is every guru and every mastermind has to have a Lamborghini, right? And we don't have our Lambo up here today, but we want to make some jokes and have fun with that. But hey, listen, if I buy $1 million property and it appreciates $1 million, I can go out and pull $500,000 out of that property. It's still cash flowing. I'm still operating the same. I take that $500,000. I could buy more apartments with it and leverage the scale, or I could go buy the Lambo, right? So it's the same money. It spends the same.
You can do a combo.
You know, friends that have sport fishing vessels that love to sport fish, go out and get your boat, right?
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to fly, go out and take pilot lessons, get your Bonanza, get your helicopters, whatever you want to do. The money is the money, but for us, for some reason, we just continue to love to leverage the scale and grow and grow and grow. Yep. And then we could talk about our exit. So every plan should start with an exit. I'll have to be honest, I still don't have my exit. For me, I'm following the belief that if you're not growing, you're dying, and that you should always have a goal and a target, and you never want to catch it. Once you get close, you need to reevaluate and set another goal. Grant Cardone, just more of that stuff.
Literally, it's why we're here.
Because
giving back and sharing the growth and our real estate expertise for almost 20 years, right? 40 years of experience. That's where we're at now, is sharing it, and you can scale that way too, right?
Sure, and we're trying to do that for you as well. So what is your exit? What is the ultimate exit? It's going to be different for you than it is for me. But make sure that you have an exit plan. Make sure you talk to your family. If I get hit by a bus today, what's going to happen to this whole this circus that I have going on? I'm juggling all these parts, right? So always have an exit plan. Property management software. So when we're talking about scale, okay, so when I hired someone, I said, hey, I'm hiring you. We're going to build SOPs. Here's Appfolio. This is what we use. One of my first conversations was, look, you know how many doors we have? I think when we talked, we were at about 500 doors. And I said, look, I'm not hiring you to work for me to manage 500 doors. I don't want you to create SOPs for 500 doors. I want you to create SOPs, and I want you to manage for me 20,000 doors. And I don't want you to worry about my region. I don't want you to figure out how to manage in this 10-mile radius. I want to know how to manage nationwide. And I want to build that process to scale so that if we drop somewhere 800 miles from home, we pop up our system, we fly over there, we hire 2-3 people, we make them follow our rules, and we're out of there. So that's how you leverage the scale. That's what the McDonald's Ray Kroc did. Great movie and book if you haven't read that. I love Discount Tire. I think it was 5 tires and no plan. And that guy, he has a plan. And we're trying to emulate that, right?
Yep.
So property management software, the Appfolio that we use, it's $1 more every time we bring on a unit, right? So if we have 500 units today, we're paying $1 for management, we're paying $1 for the call center. So if we bring on 10,000 units, it's just 20,000 more a month. Yep. So make sure you have some type of a property management process or a record keeping process that can scale with you and move with you as fast as you're moving. Right. So one way that you're going to be able to leverage and scale your growth, and this is from Kiyosaki, but this is using OPM, other people's money, and also OPT, other people's time. And that's something that for me, when I had 3 jobs, I worked 20 hours a day. I worked as much as I could, 6-7 days a week. And even if I was making $1,000 an hour, I could only make so much, right? So when you leverage your time by using other people's time, you build a team, you can start billing out 2,000-3,000 hours a day. So that's other people's time. Other people's money, obviously, we use the bank, we use lots of things. But one thing that I never had access to, and we're kind of offering to you right now, is a way for you to join our mastermind group and leverage our time and our knowledge. So we're inviting you to use other people's time.
Yeah. So guys, right now you've purchased this program. You went through the 8 modules. You're learning a ton. You've taken a ton of notes.
You're laughing a lot.
Yeah, hopefully you're laughing a lot. We're having a lot of fun, and it's a do it yourself model, right? But what we found over the years is masterminding and being around amazing people on a weekly basis, being around like-minded people. Like for me, and my wife's been my business partner since we've been married for 15 years. We've been together 17 years. And we're like the only people that we can talk to about what we do. Like our friends don't understand it. No one like gets being an entrepreneur, right? It's difficult, right? So joining a mastermind and having these weekly calls and being an owner of a company, you want to have weekly calls. You want to get together and meet up and have these friends for a lifetime. And not only that, like the masterminds that we're involved in, we're doing deals together. For example, like we talked about we were at dinner the other night, and our buddy who's in our group, he's selling his property for $14 million. He's got to go buy an $18 million property. Yeah. Like if you're not in a network like daily, weekly, monthly, annual group where we get together and have FaceTime and hang out and go on trips and do some cool stuff, how would you know that?
Sure.
By the way, could you help him go, I just so happen to be doing a 1031 exchange myself. Here's an $18 million deal. And then you just keep moving on. So the mastermind is so important for a lot of reasons, but the accountability side of it, I think, is the most important.
Sure, and it depends on what you're looking for in a mastermind too. Right. I know my journey was on my hands and knees through the glass and through the coals to get to where I am. And the first time I collected that first month's rent, I just couldn't believe it was true because I'd been reading books and studying and trying to seek out mentors for so long. And everything I read and studied kept telling me, this is how it's going to be, this is what's going to happen, but I just couldn't get it done. And a good friend of mine at the time was a fix and flipper, and I would always talk to him about apartments, but I didn't have any. And I just was trying to get there. And he was flipping and he was telling me what he was doing. And I just kept saying, man, you just got to go for cash flow, even though I didn't have any. And he kind of kicked me in the back and said, hey, why haven't you made an offer on that? Why haven't you owned that yet? Right. So props to Mike if he's out there. Thanks for that, buddy. He was a good friend of mine and helped me when I needed a kick. I couldn't get into any mastermind groups. I tried, I looked for them, they weren't around, right? So now, anybody that reaches out to us and joins our program, you're going to get those kicks from us. Absolutely. I'm kicking Eric every day, right? Yeah. I'm saying quit fixing and flipping, shaking him, come on, get in the cash flow. Yeah. So these mastermind groups, if I would have been able to get into one 10 years ago, where would I be today, right? Oh my gosh. And so that's what I love about it.
We've had that conversation. I've personally, my wife and I have probably bought and sold over 1,000 properties, okay? Right. If we would have just kept a small portion of those, where we'd be at today. Fortunately, we have, and we've been very blessed to be where we're at today.
But it's accountability, right?
Absolutely. I love being around like-minded people. I love having those calls. I love getting together. And then the other thing is, there's something that you've taught me that I forget. And I would have made a huge mistake if I wouldn't have taken that advice. Vice versa is you're learning from, yes, we have different paths and the way we got there, going direct to seller and learning how to market at a different level. Like there's going to be people in our group that have different expertises that are beginning, but no more than the guy with 20,000 doors. We had that conversation yesterday at dinner with one of our high level guys.
And we love
he has
their
no idea that
right?
he just deals with brokers.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how in the world would you do that? I mentioned one thing. He goes, no, I've never heard of that before.
Right. And
I'm
brokers
like,
used to be the mastermind. And the broker had the list, and the broker knew who the buyers were, and he knew who the players were.
Yep.
Right. And so if you wanted a little taste of that, you had to get in with the broker, and you had to pay the price and those kind of things.
Right.
So, I've sat with some of those brokers, and I've learned from them, and I'm here to share with you.
What's the next step? How can you take it to another level, right? So what we want you to do, there's a place in our resources section of our course to join our mastermind. Okay.
Right. Or on our website.
Or on our website.
apartmentstofreedom.com.
And so what it is you're going to fill out an application, and you're going to get some one-on-one call on us. We're going to find out what your next level is, where you're going, how we can help you get there. Okay. Right. How we can get over 500 doors and have that financial freedom, that legacy, all that stuff, and go to the next level. So go on the resource page, fill out the application for the mastermind, and we look forward to spending more time with you rather than do it yourself in our group. Spend time with us, get to ask us all these questions, and go to the next level.
So thank you for sticking with us through Module 8, our final module. It was Leverage to Scale. There's some action plans you can kind of go through and practice the BRRR method. You could probably add a couple more R's to that if you think of them. But for us, the BRRR is a very good explanation of exactly what we do and what we've done to register to leverage and scale. Right. Remember to set goals. You always have to have a goal. Grant Cardone will tell you, take your goal, put a 10 in front of it or multiply it times 10 and get after it. Take massive action. And we love him for that, and it really works. And take time to join a mastermind group and accelerate your success.
And we look forward to building freedom and cash flow together.